are eligible. And one of the great things about enjoying hockey and being a hockey fan, whether you're in Canada or elsewhere, is debating national teams, right? And so you still have plenty of room to debate those who are not on this list, because there are others on a long list. And one of the reasons I was curious about it is, with the IOC and the Olympics, you have to enter protocol, right? So if
testing in that,
if you don't enter, sorry, that's a better way of putting it. If you don't enter their drug testing protocol, then you can't compete at the Olympics. So there is a longer list of players and you have to get into it early. It's not something you can't just show up like a week before the Olympics and say, oh, I'm here for the testing. No, it has to start early. I know there were some players who were going through the process earlier this summer. So it is longer than just the names who were invited to Calgary. I think I'm not surprised Celebrini was there. I was pleasantly surprised that Connor Bedard was there. I think it's important to have players who are going to be a big part of the future on the common, at least by osmosis, be around some of these players. But Bedard, even though he had good intentions of working on his strength and his explosiveness this summer, as he's discussed, I was wondering if not going to the Worlds would hurt him. And I know I wasn't the only person wondering that. So I'm glad to see that he's at least getting an invite to this orientation camp, because he's going to be playing for Team Canada for a long time. And at the very least, he should be around some of those great players.
Okay, Elliotte, another thing we wanted to mention here, the 5 players that were acquitted in the Hockey Canada sexual assault trial: Cal Foote, Dylan Dubé, Michael McLeod, Carter Hart, and Alex Formanton. All 5 remain suspended by the league at this time. So I'll just ask you this: is there anything else worth mentioning on this file here for now until the commissioner decides what the next course of action is?
I think it's really irresponsible to speculate until we have a league ruling on this. I don't think anything more needs to be said about that until we know if they're eligible to play. I think I just don't think it's smart to speculate on where they could play.
Okay. All right, with that, it'll take us to the final thought, which is brought to you by GMC. So, Elliotte, before we broke for the summer at the beginning of July, it's our last thought line of the season. Todd in Connecticut wrote in with a question about the first no move or no trade clause in the salary cap era. Now, I went rogue with the question and went back to like one of the first ones ever in the history of the league. But you, much more smarter and astute than I, actually found an answer to the question Todd was specifically asking. What have you found?
Well, I'm not smart or astute. I think you just committed libel against the words smart and astute.
I was like, you're not going to sue me, are you?
But somebody else did send in a note, and they had the answer to that question, that in the salary cap era, the first player to receive a no trade clause was Sergei Zubov.
Oh.
So that individual did not want their name used, which is perfectly acceptable. If you prefer the cloak of anonymity, we will grant that. But he did have the answer. Sergei Zubov in the cap era was the first player to get it. I wanted to do a couple other shout outs too. I went to Anthony Stewart and his wife Shantae started Hockey Equality, and they had a fair, or like a fun day, a couple of weeks ago, and I went to go see them. And Anthony was awarded with a Certificate of Exemplary Work to Canada, which he's absolutely deserving of. He does a lot of great things to grow hockey in this country. And at it, I met a loyal pod listener named Joel, who had a question for me, Kyle, and you're going to love this question. He said, when you are answering questions on the thought line, do you look them up as you're answering them? And I was offended that someone thought I would cheat the thought line.
No, I can back you on this one. You do not. You don't want to know what questions are coming unless there's something specific in terms of someone wondering, a salary cap or a CBA type question, just so our bases are covered. But otherwise, like the trivia ones especially, I don't tell you what we're going to talk about, and that's all your brain at work.
I am mortally wounded. Joel, first of all, thank you for keeping us employed by listening to the podcast, but I am mortally wounded that you would think I would cheat and tarnish the podcast. And I also wanted to shout out a young man who I met, a young Toronto area hockey player, Enrique Pospisil. I was walking out of my house and he was working with his dad. He's working doing trade work during the summer. He was working on one of my neighbor's homes, and I happened to be walking by, and him and his dad came over to say hello. So I just wanted to wish, he's 15, big kid, like big, strong kid. So I just wanted to wish Enrique a great 2025-26 season. Hard for me to remember what year we're in sometimes, Kyle.
Very good. Okay, that was the final thought brought to you by GMC. We'll take our first break, and on the other side, you'll hear our interview with Spencer Stastny. You're listening to 32 Thoughts, the podcast. Okay, welcome back to the pod. Spencer Stastny, a 25-year-old from Mequon, Wisconsin, just north of Milwaukee. He's a fifth-round pick of the Predators back in 2018, began his pro career with the Milwaukee Admirals, effectively his hometown team. The 2023-24 season, scores his first NHL goal, played his first ever Stanley Cup playoff games. He finished that postseason with the Admirals. On the surface, it appeared Stastny was on a real exciting path. Under the hood, very much not the case. Last September, Stastny did not report to training camp for personal reasons. He remained away from the team until late November. The Predators didn't comment on the specifics. Stastny didn't elaborate publicly until now, Elliotte.
Yeah, and the Predators, it should be pointed out, have a great history with getting players help when necessary. You'll remember Brian McGrattan and Jordan Tutu were two players who really credited Nashville for saying, all right, you need help and we're going to make sure that you get help. So I'm not surprised in the least bit that the Predators kept it quiet and made sure that Stastny was in position to get the help he needed. And we'll hear him tell things in his own words here. But I think the key thing to recognize as we begin this is that he really wants to help people. I hope that anybody else who listens to him and says, I kind of feel that way, I always believe this: if an NHL player is strong enough to get help, there's no reason you shouldn't feel strong enough to get help too.
All right, and with that, here is Spencer Stastny's story, as you said, Elliotte, in his own words on 32 Thoughts. So, Spencer, first of all, welcome to 32 Thoughts. Really appreciate you being with us here today. How are you doing? How's the summer been going? What have the last few weeks looked like for you?
Thank you. No, summer's been great. I just got back from a little trip to Arizona to see some family, and then now I'm just getting into training. Just going to continue doing that, getting on the ice, and really enjoying this summer a lot more than the previous few.
Well, it's great to hear. We're glad to hear you're in a really good place. And, I figured we'd start by taking you back to an important moment in your life, and that's the 2024 Calder Cup playoffs. You're playing with the Milwaukee Admirals, which is the Predators' American Hockey League team. You guys win the first round. You beat Texas, and in the second round, the division finals, you beat Grand Rapids, and then it's the conference finals. You play Coachella Valley, and they beat you 4-1 in the Western Conference Final. And it was then you said you had a major moment in the dressing room that brought you to a critical point in your life. Can you take us through this?
Yeah, the season prior, we lost to Coachella, I think 4-2, and there was a little rivalry there. And the year before, I think I had a pretty good playoff run with my D partner, Adam Wilsby. And then
You
that
scored the
year when
winning
we
goal
lost-
against the Manitoba Moose,
Yeah.
right?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
that's
Yeah,
right,
that was a fun one. Yeah, and then that year we lost 4-1, and I remember sitting in the locker room after that last game, and it was in Milwaukee, and I was looking to my left and I was looking to my right, and I wasn't in a great place. And I mean we'll get into that a little bit more, but I saw Cal O'Reilly on my left, and I was sitting there pretty happy that the season was done. I was absolutely miserable, and I had nothing in the tank, and I saw him on my left just defeated, absolutely just looking miserable, or tears in his eyes, like he wanted to win that game more than anything.